Have you ever found yourself in a room full of people, surrounded by conversation and laughter, yet felt a profound and unshakable sense of solitude, as if you were observing life from behind a sheet of invisible glass? If this feeling resonates deep within your soul, you may belong to one of the rarest and most complex of human temperaments. Known for their profound empathy, sharp intuition, and a relentless drive to understand the deeper currents of life, these individuals often walk a path that is both beautiful and perilous. Their hearts are wired to care, to mend, and to nurture. But this very gift, when given without limit, can become their greatest vulnerability. For when the givers forget to replenish their own spirit, they begin a slow, silent descent into a state of profound depletion known as burnout. The first and most insidious sign of this encroaching shadow is a pervasive sense of emotional exhaustion. In their natural state, these individuals possess a deep well of emotional energy from which they draw to support, guide, and understand others. It is a vibrant, life-giving source. But burnout is a slow drought. It does not announce itself with a thunderclap, but with a quiet, gradual receding of the waters. Suddenly, the very tasks that once brought fulfillment, a heartfelt conversation, a creative project, the simple act of listening to a friend, begin to feel like monumental burdens. The energy required to engage, to feel, to simply be present is no longer there. This is not mere tiredness, it is a hollowing out of the soul. The emotional landscape, once rich with color and nuance, becomes a muted gray vista. You may experience volatile mood swings, shifting from a fragile moment of contentment to the depths of sorrow without a discernible cause. This is because the emotional buffers have worn thin, leaving you exposed and reactive. A sad story on the news or a minor disagreement can trigger a disproportionate wave of grief or frustration. Furthermore, a persistent mental fog descends. The clarity of thought and the sharp intuition that once served as a trusted compass now feel unreliable and distant, leaving you feeling lost and questioning every decision. The second warning sign is a dramatically heightened sensitivity, an experience akin to living with all of your nerve endings exposed to the world. While naturally sensitive, a person nearing burnout finds this trait amplified to a painful degree. The world in its raw, unfiltered state becomes an assault on the senses. The bright lights of a grocery store can feel blinding. The hum of a refrigerator can become an unbearable roar, and the energy of a crowded cafe can feel physically crushing. Places and situations that were once manageable or even enjoyable now trigger an intense desire to retreat and find sanctuary in silence and darkness. This sensory overload is mirrored by an emotional one. Empathy, the INFJ's superpower, becomes their kryptonite. They begin to absorb the emotional states of those around them without any filter, like a sponge dropped into murky water. A conversation with a stressed colleague or a brief encounter with an angry stranger can leave them feeling physically ill and emotionally contaminated for hours. They may find themselves crying unexpectedly in response to a film, a song, or a memory, as their capacity to regulate their own deep emotional wellspring becomes compromised. This is not weakness. It is a sign that their emotional circuitry is overloaded and in desperate need of a shutdown. As the inner world becomes a place of overwhelming noise and emotion, a powerful instinct to withdraw from the outer world takes hold. This is the third sign. A retreat from social interaction that goes far beyond the typical need for introverted solitude. Meaningful connections are the bedrock of this personality's existence. So when they begin to actively avoid the people they love it is a significant red flag. The phone, once a bridge to connection, now feels like a source of demand. Text messages go unanswered, calls are sent to voicemail, not out of malice, but because the energy to formulate a response, to engage in even the simplest exchange, feels utterly depleted. In social gatherings they once cherished, a profound sense of detachment sets in. They may be physically present, but their mind is 1,000 miles away, observing the scene as if they were a ghost in the room. They struggle to follow conversations, to offer the deep insights they are known for, or to feel any genuine connection. This can lead to immense guilt as they watch themselves disappoint or distance the very people they care about most. They may start canceling plans with increasing frequency, offering vague excuses because the truth, "I feel so drained that the thought of seeing you is unbearable," is too difficult to explain. This self-imposed isolation, intended as a protective measure, often deepens the spiral of burnout. The fourth sign is the sinister partnership of perfectionism and self-criticism. These individuals are driven by a powerful inner vision of how things could be. A better world, a more harmonious relationship, a flawless piece of work. When they are healthy, this idealism is a source of motivation. In burnout, it morphs into a cruel and relentless inner critic. Every minor mistake, every perceived flaw is magnified and replayed in an endless loop of self-recrimination. They become haunted by what they should have said, what they could have done better, and how they are failing to live up to their own impossibly high standards. This internal torment creates a paralyzing fear of failure. The joy of creation is replaced by the anxiety of imperfection. They may hesitate to start new projects or abandon existing ones because the gap between their grand vision and their current capacity feels impossibly wide. A crushing sense of guilt becomes their constant companion. They take on the weight of the world, feeling personally responsible for the happiness of others and for fixing problems far beyond their control. When they inevitably fall short, they don't see it as a limitation of circumstance, but as a deep personal failing, further fueling the cycle of exhaustion and self-doubt. When this cycle continues unabated, it inevitably leads to the fifth and perhaps most heartbreaking sign, a profound loss of passion and motivation. The core of this personality type is a deep-seated need for meaning and purpose. It is the fuel that lights their inner fire. Burnout extinguishes this fire, leaving behind a cold, gray ash. Hobbies and activities that once brought immense joy and a sense of flow now feel like empty, meaningless chores. The book lies unread. The musical instrument gathers dust. The desire to help and inspire others is replaced by a weary apathy. This is more than just a lack of interest. It is a crisis of meaning. The question, "What is the point?" begins to echo in the quiet moments of the day. The drive to achieve, to grow, to contribute simply vanishes. Getting out of bed can feel like a Herculean task, and the future, once a canvas of possibility, appears as a long, featureless road. A sense of hopelessness can take root, a dangerous belief that the passion is gone forever and that they will never feel like themselves again. This is the soul's cry for help, a signal that the very essence of their being has become starved of nourishment. The final warning sign is the body's revolt. Burnout is not just a mental and emotional state. It is a physiological one. When the mind and spirit have been pushed past their limits for too long, the body begins to send out its own desperate signals in the form of physical symptoms. The most common of these is a deep, bone-wearying fatigue that sleep cannot seem to touch. You can sleep for 8, 10, or even 12 hours and still wake up feeling as though you've run a marathon, your body heavy and your mind clouded. This chronic stress wreaks havoc on the entire system. Sleep patterns become erratic, with many suffering from insomnia born of a racing mind, while others may escape into excessive sleep that provides no real rest. Headaches and unexplained muscle aches become a daily occurrence as the body holds on to the tension that the mind can no longer process. Digestive issues may arise: a knotted stomach, a loss of appetite, or a craving for unhealthy comfort foods. The immune system, battered by the constant flood of stress hormones, becomes compromised, leading to a frustrating cycle of frequent colds and illnesses. These physical symptoms are not signs of hypochondria. They are the body's final, desperate alarm bell, screaming that a fundamental need for rest and recovery is being ignored. Recognizing these 6 signs: emotional exhaustion, heightened sensitivity, social withdrawal, perfectionism, loss of passion, and physical symptoms, is the first, most crucial step on the path to healing. It is an act of profound self-compassion to acknowledge your own pain and to understand that this state of burnout is not a personal failure, but a natural consequence of a deeply caring soul giving too much for too long without adequate replenishment. It is a sign that your inner well has run dry, and that it is time to stop trying to draw water for others, and instead to gently, patiently seek the rains that will fill it once more. The journey back from burnout is not a race. It is a slow, quiet homecoming. It involves learning the difficult art of setting boundaries, of saying no to protect your own sacred energy. It means rediscovering the simple, quiet activities that recharge your spirit, whether it is a walk in nature, losing yourself in music, or simply allowing yourself to do nothing at all without guilt. It is a process of reconnecting with your own intuition and honoring its gentle whispers when it tells you to rest. Remember, your well-being is not a luxury. It is the essential foundation from which all of your gifts of empathy, insight, and creativity flow. Tending to your own soul is the most important work you will ever do. If this exploration of the inner world has offered you a measure of clarity or comfort, know that you are not alone on this path. The shared journey of understanding is itself a powerful source of light and healing. Take care of yourself, for you are immeasurably valuable.